Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I as always am Grestar and this is another reaction to a death battle, Dragonborn versus the Chosen Undead. As always, the link to the original is in the description below. So before we get into the reaction, I want to do my usual ramblings and I want to talk about the sponsor of this video, DyePort. So DyePort focuses on creating customized hydro-dipped controllers, whether for PlayStation 4 or 5, Xbox One or Series, or the Nintendo Joy-Cons, and they were kind enough to send me one so I could test it out, and kinder still to add a little extra treat to it at my request. So you can see this is the controller I got, and right there, if you've seen my Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 speedruns, you might recognize this character. This is Patroller. She is the default Majin female and the one that currently has world record in the new game category. And so, you know, I'm very proud of her, and I'm very happy to finally have like some physical thing of Patroller. And like, this is not the highest quality picture just because it comes from Xenoverse 2 and I don't have any like quality mods or anything, and so these are the graphics you get. But the controller itself, I think it looks really good. It feels good, like it has a nice smooth finish. And I've been playing with it. I've been playing games with it and it works perfectly well. Here you can see me on screen just kicking Furry Mira's butt right now. You can see the input display, you can see me using the controller itself. And of course, there on screen is Patroller in all of her glory. So, yay, I have a controller now. Like, it's a picture of Patroller. I'm happy about it. And, more relevantly, I've been using this controller when playing Dark Souls. Yes, because of this death battle coming up, my younger brother wanted me to give Dark Souls another try, so he and I have been playing together in our off time. And, it's not that it's like giving me a super advantage or anything. It just functions like any other Xbox Series controller that you might expect, but it functions perfectly well. And I just cannot imagine playing Dark Souls with a mouse and keyboard. And funnily enough, after they had reached out to me and offered to send me one, you know, in exchange for this review, my controller broke. So it was the perfect timing to receive this. Coincidence? Probably, yeah, it was a coincidence. So to give them their due, let's check out their website a little bit. This is on the About Us page under the Mission category. It says, to provide high-quality hydro-dipped products that are customized to meet the unique needs of our customers. So near the top of the screen, you can see they have different categories. They have their PlayStations, their Xbox, their Nintendo, etc. Collections is something that I like to look at personally if I'm not looking for a specific controller. And of course, my favorite category is anime, because I'm a weeb. There's also gaming, but like, just to check out some of these, I mean, I'll just click anime itself. We can see they got some like really cool Pokemon ones, like the Gengar, the Pikachu. We got Bleach here, we have One Piece. Oh yeah, just jump to the bottom, why don't you? A lot of cool designs here. Up in the gaming, which is my second favorite, of course. You know, we have our Spider-Man, The Last of Us. We have a Football Manager, apparently. Just a lot of really cool designs that I think would look super neat in a special collection. Oh, they have Star Wars. I didn't know they had Star Wars. What do they have in Star Wars? Oh, they have just one. Wait, Venom? Why is this Star Wars? Okay, I see why it's Star Wars now. I was not expecting a Venom Star Wars crossover controller. That's kind of weird. But really, my only complaint about these controllers is the price. Aside from that being a little bit spicy, like, if I had the extra money, I assure you I would be buying more of these. So if you're interested in getting a cool looking customized controller for yourself, if the price is not too daunting and you're just in the market for one anyway, I would definitely recommend checking out DyePort. If you want to, please use my referral link and you can use the code RG10 to get 10% off of your order. Because again, if I had the money, I totally would purchase more because they're totally functional. I think they look and feel really cool, and I would want more. But alas, I am poor. Thank you, DyePort, for sponsoring this video. So to reiterate, recently I have been replaying Dark Souls, and I say replaying because I tried once and I didn't beat the Tauros demon on the bridge and I quit. So I just, replaying is then I started again. My younger brother encouraged me to do so because of this death battle coming up. He wanted me to know a little bit more about Dark Souls before everything was like spoiled for me. At this point, I have played about 9 hours. I've beaten 2 bosses, but to be fair to myself, the 2 bosses took about 6 hours. The other 3 hours was me like grinding for souls and just exploring afterward, because I've been trying to play with my younger brother. Like, the servers are dead now, and so we've just been like in a Discord call playing simultaneously, right? But I don't want to make like progress in the story without him, so I was just looking around the area. You know, like, I beat the 2 Black Knights that were available. I beat Havel. I beat like the demon dude that shoots lightning with his giant weapon or whatever. But it's such a hard game. I am not good at Dark Souls, but I've been trying my best. So I am not far at all. And even like with how far I have gotten, I don't know what's going on story-wise. I like have no idea. They've tried to explain it to me, and like it either didn't make sense or it just didn't stick, or I forgot, you know, which I guess kind of is what didn't stick. But I just don't really fully grasp what's going on. However, I also don't know what's really going on with Skyrim, and I've beaten that more than once. So, I was gonna say, so in my defense, but really I realized the common factor there is me. So, it's all offensive to me. The point of this, though, is that I'm thinking right now, just with what I know of the two characters, like characters, right, because it's however you want to make them, more specifically the two franchises, I think that Skyrim is going to win. From what I can gather, like, Dark Souls is a much, much harder game, but that doesn't mean that, like, the character is tougher or more powerful, you know? And it seems to me that, the Elder Scrolls series, you know, Skyrim, part of that, it just deals with more, like, godly and temporal and universe-defying things, you know? Whereas Dark Souls so far has just been dealing with big monsters. You know, it seems like Dark Souls would be more of a rival for like a Monster Hunter kind of thing. That they seem much more similar to me right now than, you know, Dark Souls and Skyrim. Like, I think that seemed like it would have been a better matchup. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I wrong? I haven't played a lot of Monster Hunter either, but just from what I have played, like both mechanically and just kind of story-wise, or, you know, like enemy-wise, I guess they seem much more similar. But I don't know, maybe down the line in Dark Souls you do fight literal gods, but I know you fight literal gods and, you know, demons and everything in Skyrim. And so at the very least, it seems like Skyrim has what Dark Souls has, but this is just one of those cases where I do not really know enough going into the death battle to actually make a solid decision, but it just seems to me right now, based upon what I do know, that Dragonborn will win. So right now I'm putting my money on that. We'll see if the analyses change my mind. So quick thing, I had to do that last bit, like record that last segment a few days ago actually, because I needed it in time so that DyePort could review it and make sure that I wasn't like blaspheming them or anything, right? And since then I've played some more Dark Souls, so to give you an update, these are the bosses I've now defeated. The tutorial boss, obviously enough, right? The Taurus Demon, which at the time of recording, that was I think as far as No, I did one more. Tutorial boss, Taurus Demon, and the Gargoyles. And since then, I've now also beaten the gross split dragon thing, the fire spider lady, and the fire giant, where you like steal from the witch, you know? And yes, I did use the exploit. It took forever to actually make work. In addition to those bosses, I've also beaten Havel. I beat like the first two Dark Knights that you can come across. I beat that one demon thing by the blacksmith, by the gargoyles. I have a notepad. I beat the giant rat in the sewers, and I beat the golden knight dude. And I'll put on screen real quick too, just my time. So like, the top one is the time that I have spent playing the game like alongside my brother. Obviously, like the servers are dead at this point, so we can't actually play together, but we're playing simultaneously, you know? Because again, he's the one that encouraged me to like try it again. And the second time is just last night, I started a new game just to see if it was like, did I get better at the game, or am I just getting through these areas faster because I have higher skill points? So yeah, I made a new character to actually try it, you know? And in that like 5 hours, 50 minutes, I actually made it back to the same point, having beaten all of those same people again. The only thing that I didn't really do, I mean, like some of my equipment is not as leveled up because I didn't farm as long for like Titanite shards and things like that. But I'm actually like, I think 1 or 2 levels higher. And I did not get one of the like, I forget what it's called, but the fire spirits where you can reinforce your flask, you know? Because at the time I forgot where that was, and I only remembered once I was back at Firelink Shrine, and I didn't want to bother to go back, because I was like calling it a night there. I didn't want to bother to go back just then, but I know where it is, I know how to beat it. It's like by the toxic shooters in the swampy place, taking the shortcut back down. So I'm just happy that there was such an improvement from like 13.5 hours to like 6 hours. I definitely have gotten better at the game. It's still hard as balls, but progress, in case anyone here cared. Now let's get to watching. So here we go for the death battle. Skyrim versus Dark Souls. Take it away.
Undead.
It's really weird how they did it, by the way, because like it's labeled
Dragonborn,
Skyrim versus Dark Souls,
dragon-slaying
parentheses,
savior of
Dragonborn versus
Skyrim.
Chosen Undead, and
Assigned
usually
to
it's the
captivity,
characters,
these
parentheses,
two
where they're
timid
from.
heroes embraced their destinies
just-
and
yeah.
stared down the very gods themselves.
And devoured their friggin' souls!
Because these two lack specific canon arsenals and movesets due to being role-playing protagonists,
Right,
for
yeah.
this death battle, we're giving them everything they have and maxing out all of their stats.
Which is
Everything at
totally
max.
possible in-game
Okay.
if you're willing to grind. He's Wiz and I'm
Is
Boosted.
it
And
possible
it's
to
our
max
job to
everything in
analyze their
Skyrim? I
weapons,
thought there
armor,
was
and
a
skills
level
to find
cap,
out
so
who
you had
would
to
win
kind of pick and
a
choose on
death
some things.
battle.
But maybe if you like pick and chose
Our
the
story
combat
begins
ones, like that would be
at
fine.
the end. The great cities of old have collapsed. The heroes are dead or mad, and the Golden Age is over. Looking out upon their decaying kingdom, everyone would like nothing more than to lay down and die.
Too bad for them. That's the one thing they couldn't do.
The
Oh,
world
no.
has been gripped by the undead curse, turning
Wait, we're
anyone
starting
with a
with Dark
mysterious
Souls?
sign into mindless, violent hollows upon repeated soul-crushing
Why?
death.
This is
But-
such a strange episode already. Yeah, I really don't know much about the story at all. Yay! Yeah, that's fair. Right. No, the Dragon Bridge! I know that bridge! Oh gosh. Wow. Pillar-sized arrows? Okay. Oh. Nice. It is! It's so dumb.
Bed of Chaos, the mother of all demonkind, and Calamite, the strongest surviving ancient dragon.
That was when the chosen undead was dragged back in time to face the fallen knight Artorias, the
Oh.
greatest warrior in history. And not only defeat him, but accomplish the greatest feat attributed to Artorias' legend, the destruction of Manus, the father of the abyss that threatened to consume the world.
They've
see.
even beaten other chosen undead from alternate worlds, like the best buddy in all gaming, Solaire. Praise the sun, bro! And soon they were approached by these two slithery freaks. One said to link the fire, and the other said to let it die out, which totally makes sense. Wiz can explain it.
Don't look at
Please
me.
do.
Dark Souls
Oh.
lore is as notoriously convoluted as the flow of its time, which is why we have a true expert in the realms of nerdom to explain it for us.
Perfect.
Oh, Jocelyn.
I wouldn't believe it. Okay. Hmm. The Dark Soul. Oh. Very not real. Okay. Huh. Really? Really? This is when we're going to have a commercial all of a sudden? Screw this, skipping. She didn't even finish her sentence. And we're back. Okay. Not that infinite then. Alright, bye.
Hey, you!
And
You
now,
finally
out of
awake?
order,
Welcome
Skyrim's
to
turn.
the frosty Viking paradise of Skyrim. Visit the quaint Nordic villages. Hike up to the throat of the world. Marvel at the beauty of Blackreach. Hey, what's that in the sky? Wait,
Oh, no.
Macho Man Randy Savage! Oh, it's Thomas the Tank Engine!
No.
Yeah,
that
the
is a
mods are
dragon.
crazy.
But not just any mere Drake. This is Alduin, the World Eater. And he's come to burn everything to a cinder.
But fortunately for you, his path of destruction happened to interrupt your impending execution.
Yeah, that
at
was
the hands
nice.
of those uppity Imperial pigs. That'll be the worst mistake this scaly monster would ever make.
It wouldn't be long before you escaped the destruction of Helgen and defeated a dragon yourself.
Then absorbed its freaking soul.
That could only mean one thing. You are a being born with the blood and soul of a dragon in the body of a Nord, or elf, or Khajiit, or lizard,
Khajiit.
destined to
Khajiit,
battle
for sure.
Alduin and save the world.
In their tongue, you are the Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
Ah.
In their quest to rid Tamriel of Alduin's dragon army, the Dragonborn became a jack of all trades, master of all.
They learned to be a master assassin with the Dark Brotherhood, a master sorcerer with the College of Winterhold, a master thief with the Nightingales, a master dragon hunter with the Blades, and a master good boy who's a good boy, not a good boy.
They even fought in the Skyrim Civil War on the side of the Imperial Legion, champions of order.
You mean the Nordic War for Independence on the side of the Stormcloak?
Well,
Those elf-funded Nord supremacists?
Better than those jackbooted Cyrodiil fascists?
Oh,
But
no.
what else can I expect from a monster who steals from innocent villagers by sticking buckets over their heads?
They can put their skills to good use with an absolute glut of weaponry. Not just the usuals like daggers, swords, hammers, and axes, but also special weapons given to them by the Daedric princes.
They're basically crazy powerful gods from the plane of existence called Oblivion. From that wascally wabbit Sheogorath, the Dragonborn received the Wabbajack, a staff that casts a completely random spell on its target, from disintegrating them to healing them to turning them into a chicken.
From Meridia, they
Lots of
received
weird
the
stuff.
Dawnbreaker, a holy sword made for burning the undead to ash.
The
That's similar to
undead.
Oriel's bow, which can shoot fiery arrows that can blot out the sun. To cover the distance between the Earth and the Sun in about 2 seconds, the arrow would have to be moving at over 250 times the speed of light.
wow.
Except this isn't Earth and the Sun. This is the planet Nirn, and that's Magnus. According to the Elder Scrolls lore master Michael Kirkbride and his in-universe text cosmology,
Okay.
when you look up at the Sun, you're actually looking into a dimension of pure magic. Confused yet?
Yeah?
I am.
Exact measurements here are difficult to make, but if anything, the distance should be much greater.
Speaking
Okay.
of magic bullshit, the Dragonborn can heal themselves. cast wards and destructive elemental spells, control minds, conjure weapons, and summon lesser Daedra to help them out in a scrap.
They're an especially powerful mage because their mana recovers itself automatically over time. They'll never truly run out of firepower.
Right.
But as a Dovahkiin, the ability they're most famous for is the Thum, or shout. By speaking the words of the dragon language, they can manifest their will into reality.
Like with the classic Fus Roda, an unrelenting force which can knock your neighbors into next week, or
Right.
Soul Tear, which removes the soul from your enemy's body and stores it in a cute gem, like so. Riva Soul! Wait, why didn't anything? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh!
Student loans, man. Something had to cover the down payment. With these
I'm
shouts,
sorry,
the
Wiz.
Dragonborn can summon
That's rough.
country-spanning storms, slow down time, and even call upon a dragon for help. Odahviing. Dragons may look like scaly reptiles, but in reality, they're immortal demigods older than time itself. They're the children of the chief god of Tamriel's pantheon.
The Dragonborn is an unstoppable force of nature. If they happen to take any damage, they can just drink a potion or nosh on a cheese wheel and be good as new. And they can carry up to 150 cheeses at once by dream.
Assuming these abnormally large cheese wheels have an average weight of 70 pounds, we can determine that the Dragonborn can carry up to 10,500 pounds of cheese.
And that
Which
makes
is
sense
not the same
considering
weight
they can match muscles with giants
that,
who are
like,
so
you know,
strong they
the
can
Chosen
shatter
Undead
the
have.
game spaghetti code to pieces.
The last Dragonborn has battled the vampire Lord Harkon, ended Skyrim's civil war, and defeated the first Dragonborn, Miraak.
And according to the book, The Guardian and the Traitor, Miraak was powerful enough to tear apart the island of Solstheim from Skyrim's mainland.
By comparing the size of various countries on Tamriel's map, we can
Okay.
determine that Solstheim is a landmass nearly 1,500 miles in diameter. In
Cool.
order to move that much land over the course of their fight, Miraak's magical prowess must have output an energy over 300 teratons of TNT.
That's 3 times the impact of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Not too crazy when shouts can get strong enough to shake the world itself.
It wasn't long before the Dragonborn confronted Alduin in Nord Heaven and put an end to the World Eater once and for all.
The epithet is literal. By absorbing the souls in Skyrim's afterlife, Alduin was powerful enough to devour everything. Not just the planet of Nirn, but the Kalpa, the entire timeline past, present, and future.
That's
Huh.
the level of unimaginable power the Dragonborn is dealing with here.
Tamriel
Yeah.
is no stranger to great heroes across its vast, sprawling history. The Nerevarine, the hero of Kvatch, all magnificent in their own right.
But when you heard that shout echo through the mountains and the death throes of a dragon defeated, you knew it could only be the Dovahkiin. Dovahkiin,
Nice.
Dovahkiin.
Good work, Boomstick.
All right,
please no more
Run
ads.
the data through all possibilities.
It's time
For a death battle and pause. Okay, so I'm still thinking that Dragonborn is going to win. So Dark Souls, yeah, it does become much more powerful than I had experienced so far, you know, because, you know, when the biggest thing I've gone up against, and that was after I last talked about it, right, like in the earlier section of this video, the biggest thing is probably just that, yeah, like lava giant, right? But you end up going up against more god-like entities, or actual gods, you know, in the game, apparently, which I just haven't gotten there, so fair enough. The Chosen Undead is a lot more powerful than I had thought. And if we're gonna compare, like, carrying that giant brass hammer to carrying 150, you know, wheels of goat cheese, like, that's, you're lifting a lot more as the Chosen Undead. But I think where things start to fall apart, is, you know, as far as where the Chosen Undead has the advantage, is, like, with Dovahkiin having gone up against something that could consume all of time, you know, future and past, you know, that's a lot more than I think. I'm trying to remember the specifics of the Chosen Undead, but, like, it had started to consume the sun, and, like, the sky was all black because all of the stars had been consumed, is the idea that I got, or something, right? And then it was going to, like, consume the whole planet, whatever. But that's not the same as, like, all of existence through time. All of existence through time is just so much bigger. And so if you're dealing with something like that, yeah. And then you have too, like fighting the first Dragonborn, if I understood correctly, where they were outputting basically 300 teratons worth of TNT, just that much energy. And maybe even just through shouting. I was kind of unclear on that. They talked about shouting immediately afterward, and so I might have just made an unfair connection, but if that's the case, they maybe should have segued a little bit differently. I don't know. But that is a lot, especially if that's not even necessarily the focus of what you're doing. If that's just a byproduct of the activity, that's a lot. And so we're saying that the Dragonborn can resist at least that and can output at least that. That's my understanding of that feat. So we're talking about a minimum of like 300 teratons of energy, both like doing and taking and being okay, right? Then we have the arrow that they fired, which blotted out the sun, and I'm not exactly sure what that really means. The biggest thing that I got from that, like, that's, you know, more of like, I'm sure of this much, is it was 250 times the speed of light if we're assuming that they fired it at the sun, taking our measurements from the Earth to the sun. However, they specified that this is not the case because it's not our Earth and our sun, and they estimated that it would be much larger. They just didn't say to how much. So we're saying at least 250 times the speed of light, which is faster than the Chosen Undead was able to move at like 21% the speed of light. So if the arrow was strong enough, it could take out the Chosen Undead. At the very least, it could hit it. And since it can blot out the sun, which actually turned out to be a magical dimension, I don't know what blotting out really means in this case, but the size of that arrow definitely wasn't the size of an entire dimension. I mean, not even a sun, but let alone a dimension, right? And so if it was blotting it out, it must have done something, had some sort of impact, even if it was a chain reaction that was big enough to actually have a visible difference from where the Dovahkiin was standing, right? So we have that the Chosen Undead can, like, stop spells, but they specified spells from being spoken, I think. And I have a couple things about that. Like, a lot of Dovahkiin stuff does not need to be spoken, you know? It's just, like, somatic components, not verbal. And on top of that, shouts aren't spells. Shouts aren't magic. Like, as far as I understand how the world of Skyrim works, just mechanically, in the game, shouts do not count as magic. They have magical-like effects, but I don't think that it's actually, like, a spell, so I don't think that a ward would be able to block it. I don't think that, like, silence would be able to stop it, kind of thing, you know? Where I'm hesitant is that it is all about speaking. And so, like, do the Chosen Undead stop people from speaking, or do they stop them from speaking spells? Like, I don't know where the power actually is there. But either way, I don't think that the Dovahkiin would necessarily need to rely on their spells. They seem to have enough just stuff at their disposal. Even if it was just, like, can they tank the Chosen Undead long enough for that to wear off and they can use their spells again? Like, I would imagine they could. But, I don't think that the Dovahkiin would necessarily need to rely entirely on spells. But the spells are extremely versatile, you know, going invisible, healing yourself up, you know, casting stamina draining, you know, abilities like any frost stuff, right? And stamina is incredibly important to the Chosen Undead, as we know. You know, burning them, just anything, shock, right? All that stuff. Those are just the elemental things, and then there are a lot more things that they can do that's just, like, useful. I can't think of the other word. But, you know, a lot of versatility is what I'm trying to get at. And then, even if their magic or spoken magic or magic period is stopped, they still have weapons at their disposal that have magic or magic-like effects, like the sword, you know, from the Daedric princes, right? That was, like, especially effective against the undead, which Chosen Undead, right? Yeah, Dragonborn can take Chosen Undead soul. I don't think that will really come into play here because they specify that, like, the Chosen Undead has, like, they've survived that because they don't need a soul. However, souls are used to, like, power them up. I don't know if that's going to play into it at all. I don't know. Oh gosh, I had something else that I was about to say, and then I went off on that little soul tangent. What was it? Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. But overall, I just think that the Dragonborn has the advantage in this case. You know, more versatility in their items, in their attack styles, in their magic. I think that, you know, a lot of the good stuff that the Chosen Undead has, I think that the Dovahkiin and Dragonborn, you know, they just have counters, or they have, you know, they have better stuff, right? As far as I could tell, it seemed Chosen Undead, from what they said, has the advantage in terms of, like, simple movement speed. If they're rolling out of the way to dodge light, doesn't mean they're moving at light speed, but with the distance traveled, they were moving at, like, 21% the speed of light. I don't remember anything like that said for Dragonborn, And so, yeah, Chosen Undead might have the speed advantage, but it didn't seem to me like the Chosen Undead had enough, like, damage output that they could really kill the Dragonborn. You know, even, like, regenerative abilities aside, just in terms of, like, I mean, maybe regenerative abilities were lumped into that, but again, going back to, like, the 300 teratons thing, and the fact that, like, yeah, sure, there are dragons in both games, but, like, in Skyrim, they're not actually just dragons, you know, these are, like, kind of timeless, godlike entities, right? So, yeah. I just think that overall, the damage output, the survivability, the versatility, most of that, not everything of course, but most of it is in Dragonborn's favor. You know, I don't even think I really I mentioned the wards, but I didn't talk about them, but as far as like being able to just kind of dispel basically spells the Chosen Undead has, you know, used, right? So like getting rid of, you know, their sorcery, more or less, their pyromancy, whatever. So yeah, Dragonborn is going to win this one, and play.
Go and stop this fool who would let the flame burn.
Are you kidding me? A commercial? All right, I'll talk about all of the ads and stuff after the fact, because I don't think it's necessarily their fault.
The age of humans.
Here we go, starting again. All right.
The Ancients of Dark will do anything to snuff out the light. Save us, Chosen Undead.
I mean, just standing your ground against that is pretty cool. I like all the rolling. Fun stuff. Arrow to the knee. It had to be done. It's a bigger bow. Oh, that was cool. Time so. Hey, look at that. That's just gonna come right back. A lot of cool visuals in this. Ooh. That's like that's the cool sword. Something to do with moon. And I assume that's the anti-undead. Oh, so they are counting that. Okay. That's a bold move.
To die.
Prepare to die. Nice.
Save this world, Chosen Warrior. Blink the fire. Let true dark be cast upon the world. Our Lord hath returned.
KO!
You die!
Oh my god, this
Okay,
boss is bullshit.
I wasn't
This
even
debate
really
was
sure what happened.
fascinating. The Dragonborn had a wider variety of training, better access to summons, and magic that passively regenerated, as
Yeah.
opposed to the Chosen Undead's limited pool of magic.
Vow of Silence was a slick counter to the Dragonborn's magic and shouts, but it wouldn't last forever.
The Dragonborn was significantly faster, too. The Chosen Undead could dodge beams of light, sure, but Oriel's bow could fire arrows that move at least 250 times that.
But none of
That's
that
not
mattered
movement
if the
speed,
Chosen
though.
Undead couldn't stay dead.
You'd think the Dragonborn's anti-undead weaponry like Dawnbreaker would be an easy solution, but the undead of Dark Souls aren't really the same as Draugr from Skyrim.
Skyrim undead are more like those classic reanimated skeletons. But remember the conspiracy. Humans in Dark Souls are naturally immortal. They're not actually undead.
Soul Tear wouldn't have been much
I thought-
use either, considering
Okay.
humans in Dark Souls can have their souls removed.
So it's just semantic
without
stuff.
dying.
Okay.
So why didn't the Chosen Undead just keep coming back until they eventually won? Like with any Dark Souls boss.
One word, power. The Dragonborn had way more and greater feats of raw power than the Chosen Undead.
Oh yeah, like summoning country-spanning storms with a single shout, or defeating Mirek, who split a continent.
There's
Yeah.
also the lore. Both characters are essentially mythological demigods in the same kind of vein as Hercules or Sun Wukong.
Fair.
Gameplay alone won't give you the best idea of their full power as characters.
So let's get an idea of their
'Cause
max
Dark Souls is
potential
way
from
harder.
The lore.
The Chosen Undead sustaining the First Flame with their soul was insanely impressive. Considering the First Flame is responsible for the core concepts of the universe, like energy and time, it's not a stretch to say it affects not just the planet they live on, but the whole universe.
But that's nothing compared to the power levels in the Elder Scrolls.
Let's compare the First Flame to Alduin.
Okay.
Both literally run on the power of souls, and both can be directly scaled to our combatants.
Alduin had strength to consume the universe, not just Nirn, but the Kalpa as well.
You know
Right.
those planets you see in the sky? According to cosmology, those are actually separate, infinitely big planes of reality. Alduin was going to eat infinity. Multiple infinities.
In comparison, the First Flame is powerful enough to sustain a universe and the flow of time, but it can't be infinite.
Okay.
Otherwise, it never would have faded to begin with.
And that meant the Chosen Undead just wasn't powerful enough no matter how many times they revived. With that much of a difference in power, the Chosen Undead would eventually lose their will to
If you're
fight
dealing
and
with
go
infinity,
hollow.
you need
It's not
infinity to
traditional,
combat it.
But it is a form of death in Dark Souls. The Chosen Undead was surely tenacity personified, but still wasn't enough to stand up to the Dragonborn's incredible skill, broken arsenal, and overwhelming power.
The Chosen Undead could only last so long before
Nice.
they flamed out.
The winner is the Dragonborn.
Claps for Dragonborn. Very cool.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.
You're
We have a
welcome.
new Death Battle releasing every 2 weeks this year. And click the join button to get new perks and extra content. Planet level
And I will
members
try
even see
to
Death
remember
Battles before
when the
anyone
actual
else.
release date
Don't
is
miss
this
out.
time. Next time on Death Battle, we have... Oh, you're from Hunter x Hunter, right? Isn't that... Oh, what's his name? I used him in a speedrun. I did a speedrun of Hunter x Hunter for PS2. Okay. Oh, and Misaka? Misaka from... Or am I thinking of Mikasa? Mikasa. I don't know who Misaka is. Anyway, cool. I mean, I don't know either of those anime, so I'm just going to be kind of lost there. But yeah, I did play a Hunter x Hunter game. I speedran it for a bit, and that was the character that seemed to be the fastest for it. So, yay! That'll be fun. So let's talk about this Death Battle. And really quickly, I want to get out of the way the advertisements that were coming up, because it's nothing about the Death Battle, but it's my experience, right? This is about my experience, so I'm going to complain about it. I got this. Like, I downloaded this video from Rooster Teeth's website, and I even have a first subscription. And so it's like, why did I have ads on the downloaded video? Was that a natural thing? Because they were certainly not put in at natural moments, and these weren't like sponsorship ads, these were just straight up commercials, so that was super annoying. Again, I don't think that was like Rooster Teeth's fault, I don't think that was the Death Battlecast's fault, I just wanted to point that out, that it was really annoying, it kept coming up at like the worst times. And I'll just have to edit those out, I guess. But like, screw those companies. I don't care for their products or anything. Now I want to get another thing out of the way. This part actually is related to the Death Battlecast or Rooster Teeth or whatever. But it's like, this was a weird layout. Because again, the title was Dragonborn versus Chosen Undead. Which is not, and then parentheses. Or no, other way around, sorry. It was Skyrim versus Dark Souls, parentheses, Chosen Undead, or Dragonborn versus Chosen Undead. And usually, yeah, they have the character names, parentheses, what they're from. And so I wonder why they did it this way this time. It's just inconsistent. And then to be further inconsistent, even though the title has Skyrim first, they actually covered Dark Souls first. They covered the Chosen Undead first, and then had Skyrim. I don't think they usually do that. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually, like, it's, you know, individual names, where they're from in parentheses, and then the video actually has the different, like, the 2 analyses portions, right? In the order of the title. So it was just weird that it was inconsistent in 2 different ways. But whatever. So about this death battle, I was right, yay me? Okay. There we go then. I was right, yay me. And I don't disagree with the results. I thought that some of their reasoning was a little bit interesting, just as far as, like, you know, the liberties they took, or the understandings that they took away from some things. You know, like I had been wondering about, would they count the shout as the magic thing from Dark Souls, you know, being able to silence that, right? But that's largely because I don't know how the wording or the actual effect is with that spell in Dark Souls. And so, you know, if it does just cut off the voice, fair enough. Can't do shouts. I get that. I don't think that the spells in Skyrim really require a verbal component. And I'm saying that like, you know, D&D speak, right? With like verbal material or like somatic kind of things. Or like a focus. Anyway, I don't remember the spells in Skyrim really requiring that. You just like, you read it from a book and then you could do it as long as you have the mana. And I'm not going to say that that's the case every time, because like I do think there are at least some spells where something is uttered, but I just didn't remember that for most of them. And that very well just could be because I haven't played Skyrim in a long time, but I didn't think that a lot of them required the voice. And so I would think that the Dragonborn would still be able to use the majority of their spells. I just could be wrong. I also find it interesting, their distinction as far as like how the undead works. And this isn't one of those cases where I think they were cheating, but it seems weird to me that like, I had gathered that they were really hammering in the point that the Chosen Undead was actually undead. Even as far as to say like humans themselves are inherently immortal and therefore undead, you know? But then in the conclusion, they're like, they're not actually undead. You know, and I get that there is a distinction between their kind of undead and like the typical skeleton, zombies, whatever that we have in like media, right? I understand that distinction, but it's still undead, right? Within the lore? I don't know, I got lost on that. And so it's not exactly a huge critique, but it's just, I didn't follow, and I did find it kind of weird. Like the most critiquey part is this. That there did seem to be so much of an emphasis on that without any clarification until the conclusion, which doesn't really affect anyone watching unless you're like me and you're like kind of betting on the winner, right? But I just want to point that out there because it was part of my experience. I also admittedly during my analysis, like my prediction rather, I missed the part where the Chosen Undead is fueling all like the first flame. I mean, I knew they were fueling the first flame, but I thought it was in the sense of like you give your soul to a bonfire to kindle it kind of thing, you know? I didn't think it was like their inner power, their inner strength is sustaining this universe, this universal energy, you know? I thought it was more like you are but one of many sacrifices. I thought it was more like that. So my bad there, because that would have, I don't think it would have changed my prediction as far as the winner, but I definitely didn't consider them to be that powerful. I was thinking of them like dealing with things like that as far as, again, like the sky going black because all of the stars had been like shut out kind of thing. But not at the same like entire universe level. Still doesn't beat, you know, the infiniteness of, you know, Alduin's like time and space before and forever forward kind of deal. But it is significant all the same. I did find it weird in their conclusion that they mentioned that like the Dragonborn is much faster than the Chosen Undead because the Chosen Undead can move 21% the speed of light, and Dragonborn can fire an arrow really fast. Like that's not the same thing. That's the speed of the arrow flying. That's not the speed of the Dragonborn. And I'm not saying that the Dragonborn isn't as fast as they claim, or that, you know, even slower than the Chosen Undead, but I wish that in the conclusion they'd actually talked about the feat that they were just saying, because they're like, the Dragonborn's much faster. He can shoot an arrow. What? No, those aren't related. That doesn't support your claim that you just made, that previous sentence. Like, I want to know how the Dragonborn was actually faster. Is it just due to, like, being able to alter time, and therefore if you're moving at, like, a normal rate, but you have significantly slowed down time, you're moving much faster? Is that what it's about? I don't know. I don't know what feat they were using for that, but that's the closest that I can think of. So it was more just a matter of, like, in their concluding presentation, I wish that they had actually made the two feats more related, because yeah, the arrow is much faster than the chosen undead was able to move, but that is not the Dragonborn speed. They caused that, but they are not necessarily that fast. Because, like, I can shoot an arrow really fast, but that doesn't mean that I can run as fast as that arrow, you know? So I would rather them have made put a feat that meant something with that claim in that moment. I feel like the last thing that I really want to talk about is with the animation itself. So overall, I did enjoy it. It was fun. I liked all of the little, like, inside jokes, like the arrow to the knee or the prepare to die, because, like, prepare to die edition, right? Which is the one that I've been playing, by the way, not the remastered, the prepare to die edition. I don't know what the difference is, but I figured I'll point that out in case anyone cares. But while there were a lot of cool, like, visual effects, and overall I liked, what they did with the setting, just how they used the space, how they showed off the different abilities that each of the two characters had. I wish that the animation itself had been smoother. So much of the actual, like, movement and combat felt so clunky, and like it didn't have a lot of weight or impact behind it for me. Where it's just like the fluidity of the animation itself. I don't know really how to put it, because, I'm not an animator. I certainly couldn't do a better job. I couldn't do even this job. I would love to be able to. Like, it takes a lot of skill to be able to put out just what was put out. But just from a viewer, like, I know that there was something that wasn't quite right. Something that could have been improved. And it just seems to me to be the fluidity. Where from the very first movements, really, I was like, there's just a certain stiffness about it. And especially when they started, swinging about those weapons. I wish it had been better. But I mean, like, if you look at Dark Souls, or if you look at Monster Hunter, or things like that, where they're swinging around weapons, there is a feel to it. Like, you can see, like, you can get an idea of, like, the weight of the weapon or the strength of the character, and, like, their arm just, like, follows the motion through in a certain way. And I didn't get that here, like, really at all. Yeah, the blows were connecting, but just in a very, like, minimalistic way. And so that's my biggest critique for sure of the animation itself, because otherwise, like I said, I really liked it. The setting was cool. I like what they did with it, how they moved them about, what they showcased between the two characters. I liked all of that stuff. It's just the smoothness of the animation. I want to feel that weight. I want to feel that impact. I want it to seem like it's an actual fight rather than a choreographed thing, or a choreographed thing, rather. And obviously, it's choreographed. I know. But as far as suspension of disbelief and, like, letting me lose myself in it, I wasn't there. But all the same, I did enjoy this death battle, and I hope that y'all did too. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments below, whether you liked it, whether you disliked it, what you thought about this, or that, etc., so on and so forth. And next time, we'll be watching, how do you say his name? Killua? I don't know. Versus Misaka. So, it's Hunter x Hunter versus something. But I don't know what the other franchise was. So, with that, we're calling it here. So have a good one, everybody.